I didn't plan on going back there. Never. After what happened, I promised myself not to go near those woods anymore. Don't even look in the direction where the road goes deep into the trees and gets lost between the trunks, where the air becomes quieter than it should be, and where even the birds seem afraid to break the silence. I've kept my word for almost 15 years. Almost. My name is Jake. I'm 37 now. I grew up in a small settlement on the edge of the Appalachian Mountains, in an old wooden house that my grandfather built. The house creaked with every step, smelled of old wood and the wind from the hills, but it was cozy. We lived in poverty, like most of the families around us. My father worked at an old sawmill, my mother kept a vegetable garden and sold sunsets. The forest was everywhere. It didn't start somewhere far away, it was behind the house, just outside the property. Sometimes in the morning I went out to get firewood and heard someone moving in the thicket. But it didn't scare me then. It was just a forest, our forest, part of everyday life. My brother Travis and I had a habit. Every summer we would arrange a hike for a few days deep into these very forests. A tent, sleeping bags, some food, a hunting knife, an old map, and off we go. No phones. We were looking for adventures. As children, it seemed to us that we were free in the forest. Everything was new, unexplored. When you're 15, you don't see any threats. You feel like everything is under control. But this is not the case. Our last trip was in 2008. I remember exactly because Travis disappeared a week after him. He left alone, for the first time without me. He said he wanted to be alone with himself. I tried to talk him out of it, not because it was scary, but because we didn't do it that way. It's always just the two of us. It's safer that way. But he insisted. He took his tent and backpack and left. He said he'd be back in 3 days. He didn't come back. We searched the forest with volunteers, with police, with dogs. There are no traces. No backpack, no knife, no clothes, no campfire, no trail, nothing. It was as if he had disappeared. My father broke down. The mother stopped talking. I dreamed about Travis every night. I blamed myself for letting him go alone. That I didn't go with him. That I didn't stop it. Then humility came. Or rather, the dulling of pain. People around said that there were pits in those forests, the mines of old coal mines, where you could fall through. Someone thought that he had gone further than planned, fell, crashed. But no one found any trace. I left. First to the neighboring state, then even further away. I was looking for any reason not to come back. Started a family. Worked. I tried to live as if there was no past. But in every silence of the night, I heard that forest. It's like he's breathing. As if he remembers. My mother died last summer. Stroke. She was buried next to her father. After the funeral, I was left alone in the house. It was necessary to pack up, arrange the paperwork, perhaps put everything up for sale. I thought I could do it in a day or two. But as soon as I opened the attic, everything went to hell. There, in an old chest under dusty rags, I found a map. Our map. With the marks of the places where Travis and I spent the night, fished, and hid cigarettes from my father. But there was something else on it. One bold black mark is Old Parking Lot. July. I didn't remember us putting it on. There is an inscription on the back of the card. His handwriting. If I don't come back, don't look for me. If you do decide, go alone. I sat on the floor with this map until the sun went below the horizon. Everything was turning inside out. I was shaking. Travis never wrote like that. He wouldn't. It was a warning. Either an invitation. Or, the devil only knows. But I felt that something was still there. And it's waiting. I was going not to go. I swore to myself over and over again. But 3 days later I was already on the trail. 1. Why, you may ask. What was I waiting for? I don't know. I thought I could close this wound. Find something. Tell yourself that I did everything I could. But now I think deep down I just wanted to know. I wanted to see the place where my brother's life ended. I wanted to make sure that it was all real. That he existed. That I'm not crazy. I went on the route in the morning. The weather was calm, but stuffy. Summer in Appalachia is a mix of sun, rot, humidity, and mosquitoes. The trees were dense, the foliage whispering with every breeze. I was walking along an old trail that led to that very place, the old parking lot. He walked slowly. Every step seemed to pull me back. But the legs moved on their own. On the second day, I found the remains of a campfire. It was almost completely absorbed by the moss. But I remembered, we were sitting here. I saw the mark on the trunk of the tree where Travis had nailed the squirrel trap. A little further away is the stone on which he always sharpened his knife. I ran my finger along its edge. Sharp. It's like time has not passed. I set up the tent in the same place where it stood then, 15 years ago. Lit a bonfire. The wind died down. The forest was too quiet. Unnaturally quiet. I ate in silence. And suddenly, I heard the crack of a branch. Not footsteps. No. Just one clear crack. I raised my head. Nothing. But the feeling, as if someone was nearby, overwhelmed me. I turned on the flashlight and slowly swept the beam through the trees. Empty. But the fear didn't go away. He was like a thorn in my side. I got into my sleeping bag and lay awake for hours. At dawn, I found the tracks. Real. Human beings. Fresher than it could be. Right next to my tent. One trace. And it led deeper into the forest. I followed him. It's probably stupid. Maybe it was just a hunter. Or someone like me, back in the old place. But inside, something tightened into a tight knot. These footprints, they were too neat. Fresh, as if someone had just passed by. And everything was dry, but the ground under the footprint was slightly depressed, as if someone heavy had been standing for a long time. The forest was getting denser. In places, I literally pushed through the branches. Leaves scratched my face, cobwebs stuck to my hands, but I walked. Deeper and deeper. About an hour later, I came to a clearing. An unusual place. It was round, as if it had been carved out, and smooth, as if someone had deliberately cut everything down at the root. The grass is flattened. In the center are the remains of a campfire, much fresher than I expected. Black, still smelling of burning. Someone was here recently. Very recently. The coals haven't cooled down to the end yet. I stood and watched. It feels like someone is there, but doesn't want me to see them. I didn't call out. Not once did he shout. He just stood there, silently, clutching the knife in his pocket. Then I noticed a sock lying in the grass next to the campfire. One. Dirty, with a hole in the heel. I bent down. I got to know this feeling, which is difficult to explain. It's somewhere between horror and recognition. I knew that sock. He was my brother. The same color, the same pattern. We always joked about his ugly wardrobe. With a stain that I myself once covered with ketchup. The sock is 15 years old. And it was lying there, as if it had been dropped yesterday. I wasn't thinking. He just started rummaging through the grass, in a circle, raking everything with his hands. I found something else, a corner of an old tent tied with a rope. Mold. The fabric broke in my fingers. I peeled back the layer of branches and saw the frame. Metal arcs. They were twisted, as if something had squeezed them, bent them. The remains of a sleeping bag. A plastic spoon. Everything was covered in dust and rot, but it was our camp. It is here, it is this clearing. Which means he was here. He got there. And then I noticed one more thing, the bark on the nearest tree. It had a neckline. Neat, in letters. The letters were crooked, but legible. I'm scared. I can hear someone breathing. And below that, I'm not alone. My whole body froze. As I read, I felt a chill spreading through my chest. The handwriting was illegible, as if the hand was shaking. But it was him. I knew for sure. He was writing, sitting here, and someone was standing next to him. Or he thought he was standing. I sat down on the ground, lost. How long had he been here alone? What did you hear? What did you see? Why didn't you tell me anything if you survived? Or, didn't survive? I did not know. I just felt the fear begin to rise, slowly, like water in a closed room. I went back to the campfire. I decided to stay. This time it's for the night. I laid out my sleeping bag and forced myself to eat with difficulty. After dark, the forest began to sound different. Not scarier, but just more persistent. It was as if each sound did not come by itself, but with some kind of meaning. The branches were cracking. The wind was blowing, but not as usual. It did not touch the face, but seemed to seep through the hair, like something alive. I sat by the campfire and stared into the darkness. At about 10 o'clock, when the fire was almost out, I heard the first whistle. Thin, smooth. No animal in the forest whistles like that. It was a man. Not close. Maybe 50 meters away. But the whistle was clear. Not inviting, not cheerful. Just a whistle. I got up. He took the knife. He turned on the flashlight. And again, nothing. Just trees. Just shadows from the branches. Only the forest, which seemed to fall asleep, but at the same time looked. I thought it might be someone who lives here. Hermit. The old man. Maybe someone is mentally ill. It doesn't matter. but I should have known. I stepped into the darkness, beyond the circle of light. I started walking towards the sound. Every step was difficult, as if the forest was resisting. Branches slapped his face, and the roots beneath his feet grew denser. Then I saw her. Shirt. Hung on a branch. Old, faded, but still holding its shape. I recognized her. It was Travis' shirt. He was wearing it on that very camping trip. I saw the picture. She was on him. Now it's here. I couldn't think anymore. I just got down on my knees. Watched. Then I noticed something else. There's an old camera on the ground, a little to one side, in the clay. It's small, with a broken lens. I picked it up. It was wet and smelled of mold. But I put it in my backpack. Then I heard movement. Behind. I turned around instantly, drawing my knife. The light of the flashlight was jumping. Nothing. No one. But the bushes were still moving. I directed the light there. And I saw a cloth. An object sticking out from under the branches. I approached slowly. It was a backpack. Old. Worn out. He lay there as if he had been abandoned. I recognized him right away. It was his. I slowly opened the zipper. Everything is his inside. Jacket. Map. The notebook. And a knife. It's old, with a worn handle. I was holding it in my hands, and noticed how the whole handle was covered in some dark spots. Dried mud? No. It smelled of iron. I didn't check further. I was sitting there in the middle of it all, and I felt a lump rise in my throat. Everything said that he was here. Long something's happened. Something terrible. But that was it, without traces. No bones. No rags like in the movies. Just his stuff. It's like he took them off and left. Or he was forced to. And then I understood. You can't stay here. We have to leave. Tomorrow. The first light. But I couldn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep that night. He was leaning against a tree, with a flashlight in one hand and a knife in the other. The bonfire had long since gone out, but I was afraid to light another one. Too bright a light could attract someone who already knows I'm here. The forest seemed different. Not evil, just someone else's. It was as if he was looking at me indifferently, as if I were something unnecessary. Or maybe as something that is about to become a part of this land. By morning, I felt burned out from the inside. Travis's backpack was next to it. I still couldn't decide if I should take it. I only took my notebook. He was soaked, but he could still make out some things. A couple of pages are almost empty, except for one. There was a recording. It was short, like he was writing on the run. The handwriting was ragged. I heard someone calling. At first I thought it was Chris. But Chris didn't come. I followed the voice. Then I realized it wasn't him. Someone knew my name. I do not know how to go back. He didn't say he was scared. He didn't ask for help. Just that. Just a statement of fact. Someone knew his name. And he lost his way back. I was walking in the direction where, according to my recollections, there should have been an old hunting trail. We once found her in the depths of the forest. No one marked it on the map, but it led to a clearing, and from there you could get out to civilization. I walked through the branches, feeling the weight on my shoulders getting heavier with every step. At some point, I stopped. There's a clearing underfoot. The tree trunks were lying on the ground. Some are fresh, others are covered with moss. And here's something strange, shoes are among it all. Work boots. They stand in parallel. It was as if the man had taken them off carefully before leaving. And next to it is a helmet. I bent down. It's white, with the logo of some kind of logging company. It's covered in mud and dried blood along the rim. I picked it up and saw on the inside the inscription in felt-tip pen, Randy. A simple name. Probably an ordinary worker. I began to look around more closely. The remains of food wrappers, a can of energy drink, a rusty shovel. And there's something else, red plastic. I walked over. It was a walkie-talkie. It's heavy and old. It's broken. I pressed the silence button. This place was abandoned in a hurry. It was as if someone had interrupted their work. Or they left without finishing. I continued on my way. I walked in silence most of the day. No animals, no birds, nothing. Only the creaking of the trees and his own breathing. In the evening I went out to the old hut. She was standing in the thicket, almost invisible. Darkened wood, faded walls. The door is half open. I stretched, and the creak of hinges echoed through the forest like a gunshot. There's dust and rot inside. The furniture is broken. There are faded newspapers on the walls. One corner was covered with a mat of old jackets. It looks like someone lived here. Recently. I saw a jar. The food inside is canned. The expiration date is not out yet. And that feeling again, someone left shortly before me. Or he just went out for a while. There is a box in the right corner. I lifted the lid. There are photos inside. Yellowed, some with signatures on the back. People sitting around the campfire. Family. A couple of workers. And one photo that paralyzed me. She wasn't old. Black and white, but clearly made recently. I'm on it. In hiking clothes. I look away. Travis is next to me. We're in a clearing. I've never seen this picture. No one did it. No one had a camera. Not that night, not later. I don't remember running out of the hut. I just suddenly realized that I was standing in the woods and breathing like I'd run a marathon. The photo was in my hands. I didn't let him go. One thought was spinning in my head: who took this picture? Who was there then? I turned off the trail and just walked. Too fast, almost on the run. I fell a couple of times, tore my pant leg, scratched my shoulder, but I didn't stop. I needed to get out. Until dark. I wasn't going to stay here at night anymore. When the first traces of machinery appeared, a broken cart, pieces of metal, I realized that I was approaching the old logging site. There must be roads here. People. I made my way through the undergrowth and finally saw a clearing. Straight, with a rutted track from a heavy car. That was the way out. I sat down on the ground. I just sat down and didn't move for a long time. It was only now that I noticed how my hands were shaking. I looked at the picture. He looked at the hut disappearing behind the trees. And I thought, how many people have already come here? How many came out? And how many are left? I sat on the ground, clutching the photo in my palm, as if it were the last anchor preventing me from falling into complete madness. The clearing ahead stretched like a lifeline, but I couldn't bring myself to walk right away. My whole body ached with fatigue, but it wasn't the pain. Everything that had happened had left a hole inside that couldn't be patched up. I no longer knew what was safe and what was a trap. I didn't know who to trust. I wasn't even sure if I would find people when I reached the end of this trail. But I went. Not because I was ready, but because if he had stayed, he probably would never have come out. He walked slowly, checking every step. The path seemed endless. There's nothing around every corner. Just a forest, shapeless, identical, without sounds. I walked until almost dark, when I heard the first sound that didn't belong to me. The hum of the engine. Far away. Muffled. I froze. It could have been a logging truck, a hunter, or anyone else, and I was damn ready to hug anyone just to get out. I turned towards the sound, smashing my hands on branches, jumping over ditches. And now, the light. Not daytime. From the headlights. The car was parked at the edge of the forest. A large pickup truck with an open body. A man was sitting inside. He was munching on a sandwich and listening to the radio, while I, in dirty clothes, with dried blood on my face, rushed out to him like a madman. He was scared, but he didn't leave. He gave me some water. He said he was working on a billet. He left to check the equipment and was supposed to come back an hour ago. I asked where the nearest town was. He looked at me sympathetically and said, "Sit down, boy. I'll take you there." On the way, he told me that people often get lost in these places. That the forest here is old, and it happens that even with GPS, someone leaves and does not return. I didn't ask how many there were. One thing was enough for me: Travis. I kept his notebook in my pocket as a memento. When we got to the first gas station, I asked him for his phone. I called my brother. He didn't believe it was me. He shouted that they were looking for me, that they had combed the forest, that they had even found some scraps of clothing. I didn't tell you everything over the phone. He just said he was alive. That I'm coming back. I spent the night in a motel next to the road. Under the hot shower, he almost burst into tears, but restrained himself. I fell asleep in my clothes, with a knife under my pillow. I woke up in the middle of the night when someone walked down the corridor, and only then did I realize that I wasn't in the woods, that the doors weren't creaking in the wind, and that the walls here were real, not made of rotting planks. I left the next day. But not home. First, I went to the sheriff's station, where I told them exactly where I had seen the hut, shoes, footprints, and a hard hat. I didn't know if they'd find something, or if they'd think I was crazy, but I had to tell them. He gave me Travis's notebook. They accepted it as evidence. They promised to inform the family. I came out of there exhausted. And then there's the airport, transfers, and the familiar apartment door. My brother greeted me with eyes like he'd seen a ghost. He held on until I hugged him. Then they both started crying. Time has passed. I sleep at night again. Almost. Sometimes I wake up in a sweat when I hear someone calling my name, even though it's just the wind outside the window. Sometimes I find myself counting my steps on the trail, as if I were still walking through the woods. The photograph is the one in the desk drawer. I wanted to burn it, but my hand wouldn't come up. I do not know who made it. Maybe she's just appeared. Or someone was out there in the woods. But it doesn't matter anymore. I didn't tell my story to scare you. And so that you understand, the forest is not a toy. Not everyone who enters it comes out again. And if you're going there, never go alone. Especially in these places. Never.